we good to go? Yeah. Hi, my name's Josh, and this is my sit down. So I'm going to start my story 28 years ago and rewind to 1994. I was born in Africa in a place called Zimbabwe, and my mum and dad ran a church there in a small village called Mutare. And I had a great start to my childhood. For the first few years, the place we lived was really idyllic, sunny, lovely weather. We had great community, we had friends, swimming pools, and life was really, really good, just perfect. And right around the age of 3, things started going wrong in the place we lived politically. The person in charge was kind of running the country into the ground, and inflation was on the rise, and people were struggling. There was a lot of poverty, and they couldn't feed their families, and there was no money. So people turned to violence, and sadly a lot of my family and friends were targeted, and we were broken into quite a lot. And my grandparents on both sides were frequently broken into, and it was really stressful for me and all my family, my 2 sisters, my mum and dad. And there was this one specific point in our lives that was, really left an imprint on me and my family. It was when I was around 5 or 6 years old. We had all went to bed, and my family was sleeping, and this phone call came through to our landline like around midnight, and my dad went and picked it up, and it was my uncle John, and he had called to speak to my mum. And I just remember waking up in the middle of the night and hearing my mum wailing, and just this deep, gut-wrenching cry. And so I walked out my room into the hallway, and I remember seeing my mum on her knees on the floor, just crying her heart out. And I got closer to her, and I couldn't really make out what she was saying, but she was saying, "I forgive them, God, I forgive them." And basically, my uncle had called to tell my mum that earlier that night, within a couple hours, 4 men had broken into my grandmother's house and had murdered my grandmother in front of my granddad, my mum's mum. And my mum dropped the phone when she heard the news, and within seconds had forgiven the men that had killed her mother only hours before. And so, 5 years old, I remember seeing my mum, going through the process of forgiveness. And that really left an imprint on me and every member of my family. It kind of changed our lives, and would change anybody's lives forever. But I remember this mark being left on me of the reality that in life, on one hand, there's human beings that are capable, given the right circumstances, to commit such evil. And on the other hand, there's this beautiful thing of forgiveness in people that walk in light, and people that are radiant souls like my mum, who go through life and don't harbour bitterness and forgive. And so that stayed with me my whole life. And fast forward to the age of 7, we ended up packing everything and leaving Africa, and my family lost everything. We came to Scotland. My dad felt called here, and my dad started a church, just my family, and we started in our living room, and we had nothing. We lost everything, built from scratch. And over the course of 10 years, 15, 20 years, we built this church. My dad built this church with my mum, side by side, and it grew to over 100 people. I started leading worship for the church, and I developed a real passion for music and songwriting, and luckily found my passion at a young age, and that led me on this mad journey of uploading YouTube videos and getting found by people in the music industry down in London, and I would get mega buses up and down to London and ended up writing for celebrities and record labels and publishing companies and getting signed by Universal Music and Tap Management, and it was just this mad, wild journey. And at a young age, in my early 20s, I was seeing traction in a trajectory that was going for huge growth, and I was just so excited. And during that journey, I went to LA. I met this girl. There was this whirlwind romance, got married, had a kid, and life was going really, really well for me. The things of the past were kind of faded away, all the struggle, everything that we had been through, and it just looked like life was working out. Everything I was trying was going well. We had my son, who's 3.5 now, Zion Emmanuel, and I landed a job in Miami in America, the American dream. We moved out there. Zion was going to have this amazing life. I was leading worship for a church of 10,000 plus members, songwriting for Enrique Iglesias, and life was just really good. I was at my peak. We had this house on a lake, and everything was just going so well. And then, sadly, as it turned out, within a few weeks, a few months, the grass wasn't greener. And things started going wrong relationally in my personal life and with my family and work. And life got really, really hard, and it rapidly went downhill quite quickly and ended up turning into one of the, if not the lowest point personally that I've been at in my adult life. And I ended up, long story short, ended up on a plane back to London with nobody, nothing, a lot of bitterness because of things that had gone wrong in my personal life and relationships, and a lot of unforgiveness, and landed back in London, nowhere to go, a lot of debt, and ended up sleeping on sofas, air mattresses, in studios. I got a job for Sainsbury's stacking shelves through the night from 9 o'clock till 7 o'clock. And yeah, that was a massive all-time low for me, and my ego had taken a massive hit. I was really resentful to people and circumstances that had gone wrong. And I had gone from this life in Miami of seemingly everything going perfect and the perfect life and the dream, the American dream, to pretty much nothing, and regressed below zero. So lockdown hit, and I ended up going back to stay with my family in Scotland, my mum and my dad. And like everybody, was stuck in this house with nowhere to go, couldn't leave, and a lot of people were faced with their demons and things of the past. And so I ended up facing a lot of things that I'd taken a long time to address. I remember going out to the garage and working out just to keep my mindset good. And this specific day, I remember thinking back to my childhood in Africa and my grandmother. And I remember thinking, really life is a gift. And even being able to experience the highs and lows of life is something that I took for granted. And my grandmother doesn't even get the chance, if she wanted to experience the highs and lows, or rebuild, or start again, or experience pain and joy. That was taken from her. So what right did I have to sit and feel sorry for myself? And my mum, who lost her own mother and had to rebuild, move countries, and rebuild her life, as well as build a church, deal with people leaving and coming from the church, and live life without a mum, and now without her dad as well, and still have an attitude of forgiveness and love and no bitterness, and just positive all the time. And it really just made me take responsibility for me and my actions. And even though, you know, I had been dealt this really good deck of cards and things were going well, and then I went down from hero to zero, you know, I just realized that even having the opportunity to rebuild in itself is a gift. And the only time we truly get stuck and don't progress in life is when we just hold on to the past and harbour bitterness and unforgiveness. And so I started this journey at that point to letting go of the past, accepting it, taking responsibility for the things that maybe I did wrong, and taking, you know, forgiving the wrongs done to me. And I'm still on that journey. I think we're all on that journey in some way or another. And that was a defining moment for me. And, you know, I think it was just a wake-up call for me that in life you can always start again. It's never the end. You know, there's a future waiting to be created, and God wants to partner with us to create this future that's better than anything that's happened in our past. And we don't need to get stuck in our past. I think the best days are behind us. There's even better days. It may look different to what we've had in the past, but there's incredible experiences that we can have if we lift ourselves up out of the mess and choose to forgive, and like my mum, choose not to harbour bitterness. And God wants us to walk into a future that's better. And so I'm not stuck in the past anymore. I'm not harbouring bitterness anymore. I'm moving forward into a future that's, you know, better than anything I've had so far. No matter what you've come through, you can always create an incredible future, and it's never the end. It's only the end if you give up. God never gives up on you. And yeah, I hope that speaks to you. So my name's Josh, and this is my sit down. Thanks for listening.